Electric pickup trucks. Are they good enough to replace gasoline-powered trucks, or are they just novelty items? Well, let's go for a drive and find out. So the Chevrolet Silverado EV is one of the most powerful pickup trucks that you can buy right now, both in terms of electric and gasoline powered. And this truck needs to be powerful because it is also very, very heavy. Almost 4 tons. That is a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight and inertia to get going off the line, and once it does start moving, it's a lot of momentum to try and control. But the 2 electric motors, one on each axle, are up to the task because combined they produce a little over 750 horsepower and almost 800 pound-feet of torque. However, this is only done in the WOW mode, or wide open watts. Some other people have been calling it the Owen Wilson mode. Get it? Wow, wow, wow. Anyway, in this mode it'll go from a stop to 100 kilometers an hour in about 4 seconds. But when you mash your foot on the accelerator pedal in this mode, it is a little bit scary because there is quite a lot of torque steer. So the steering weaves from left to right, and the longer you keep your foot on the accelerator pedal, the more it feels like as though this torque steer gets amplified. Now again, this is only when you put your foot down in the wide open watts mode. When you switch back to the normal mode, power is reduced a little bit and the torque steer is not quite as violent. In the normal mode, Chevrolet won't say exactly how much power this truck produces, but some have speculated that it's somewhere around the same as the work truck version of the Silverado EV, so a little over 500 horsepower. Obviously, it's not as quick in that mode, but it's still more than plenty for everyday city driving. So why is the Chevrolet Silverado EV such a heavy truck? Well, that's because it has a big battery. Over 200 kilowatt hours, 205 kilowatt hours to be precise. That means that this truck is rated to go for up to 708 kilometers, at least this 2024 Silverado EV First Edition RST trim. One of the lower end trims, the work truck trim, I believe that one can go for almost 750 kilometers. But still, over 700 kilometers in a big pickup truck is very, very impressive. Charging the big truck can be done at a speed of up to 350 kilowatts, if you can find that kind of DC charger in the world. Chevy says that at that rate of charging, 10 minutes would add about 160 kilometers of driving range. From a level 2 charger, the Silverado EV can be recharged at 11.5 kilowatts or at 19.2 kilowatts, if equipped. With the latter, Chevy says that it will provide 54 kilometers of driving range per hour of charging. Like many other electric vehicles, the Chevrolet Silverado EV recuperates some energy from regenerative braking, and it does have a one-pedal mode. In fact, the one-pedal mode in this truck can be adjusted. You can have it with normal regen or a high regen. So in the high regen mode, every time that you lift your foot off the accelerator pedal, you slow down quite a bit more than you do in the normal mode. But even in the normal mode, in everyday city driving, I think that it's more than enough. I can smoothly come to a complete stop. The only time that you would need to put your foot on the brake pedal if you are in the normal one pedal mode is when you're going downhill. Sometimes it does require a little bit of extra help from the brakes themselves. This truck also has regen on demand. It's a GM thing. So on the left side of the steering wheel, there's a paddle that you can pull to provide maximum regen braking. In other electric GM vehicles, at least the ones that I've previously driven before, like the Chevy Bolt, this paddle on the steering wheel was an on-off switch. So every time that you would pull it, you got maximum regen braking, but you couldn't really control it, so it felt very jerky. In this truck, they changed it, so now it's a variable switch. So if you pull on it a little bit, you slow down a little bit. Pull on it harder, you get maximum regen braking, so you slow down a lot more. The F-150 Lightning's one-pedal mode does not have a high or low mode and is instead similar to the normal mode in the Silverado EV. It too is smooth to operate, and from time to time it does require some braking applications when arriving at a stop while going downhill. Additionally, if you switch the truck to sport mode, regen braking is stronger than the normal drive mode, but it's not as strong as the one-pedal mode. Of course, this F-150 Lightning is nowhere near as powerful as the Silverado EV, but it is a lot lighter. So although it only produces 580 horsepower and 775 pound-feet of torque with the extended range battery, which is what this flash trim has, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour still takes roughly the same amount of time as the Silverado EV when it's in the WOW mode. If you get the F-150 Lightning without the extended range battery, then it only produces about 450 horsepower, but still the same amount of torque. Best of all, when you put your foot down in this F-150 Lightning, you get nowhere near the same amount of torque steer as you do in the Silverado EV. There is a slight amount of wheel spin, but otherwise it is far more controllable. The battery too is smaller, 131 kilowatt hours in this extended range. The standard range is 98 kilowatt hours. In this flash trim, it's rated for up to 515 kilometers. Charging the F-150 Lightning is not quite as fast as the Silverado EV. From a DC charger, it can accept electricity at a rate of up to 178 kilowatts, whereas from an AC charger, maximum is 11.3 kilowatts. Ford says that with the extended range battery, 15% to 80% takes approximately 38 minutes. From the level 2 charger, 0% to 100% takes about 15 hours. The F-150 Lightning's bed is 5.5 feet in length. You can option the bed with a drop-in liner or a spray-on liner. The bed has LED lights as well as one tie-down in each corner with additional removable tie-downs. The tailgate is power operated and incorporates Ford's tailgate step. There's also the Pro Power on board that allows for multiple power tools to be plugged into the truck, or you can use it to power in-home appliances during a blackout. The Chevrolet Silverado EV's bed is a little bit longer at 5 foot 11 inches, but it can be extended thanks to the Multiflex midgate. You can drop down the rear seats and open up the divider between the cab and the bed 60/40. The rear window is also removable and can be stowed inside the cab. This midgate allows for over 9 feet or about 3.2 meters of space. In addition to this, there's also the tailgate. It has 6 different positions from a step to a load stop to a working surface. It's not power operated like the one in the Lightning, but it is constructed out of aluminum, so it is light enough to open and close. With the removal of the engine and transmission, both trucks have a front trunk, or frunk. In the Chevy, it is 303 liters in size, while in the F-150 Lightning, it is 400 liters. Both are power operated, and both have power outlets in them. When it comes to payload and towing, both trucks can tow the same amount, but one of them can carry more than the other. The F-150 Lightning can carry a little over 1,900 pounds, whereas the Chevy Silverado EV can only carry about 1,500 pounds. But both of them can tow up to 10,000 pounds. At least with the F-150 Lightning, it's when you equip it with the max trailering package. Otherwise, it's only 7,700 pounds. However, just like gasoline-powered trucks, as soon as you hitch up a trailer, and if it's a big and heavy trailer that is, then your range is going to plummet. And recharging these trucks is not as easy as refueling a gasoline-powered truck, because gas stations, you just pull right in and you fill it up in, less than 5 minutes. Whereas with these ones, let's face it, charging stations are not the pull-through type. They're the ones that you have to pull in, and most likely your trailer is going to be blocking all the other EV charging stations, or you have to take it down in order to back one of them up into a charging station. So when it comes to towing over long distances and towing heavy things with electric pickup trucks, they're about as useful as using a garden hose to put out a wildfire. Thanks to the adaptive air suspension, the ride of the Silverado EV is much more supple than that of the F-150 Lightning. You'll still be able to feel large potholes because at the end of the day, it has massive 24-inch wheels with low-profile tires. However, it doesn't feel as bouncy and as jittery as the ride in the Lightning. Being electric trucks, neither exhibit any sort of powertrain noises. Yes, there is a bit of wind noise on highways, but it gets drowned out more so by the noise of the tires. Now looking at the interior of the Chevrolet Silverado EV, it has a very spacious cabin, both up here in the front seats and in the back seats. In fact, both of these trucks have a lot of space for above average height individuals such as me at 6'4". I fit comfortably behind my tall driving position, whether it's in the Silverado EV or the F-150 Lightning. Although I did notice that in the Silverado, it does have just a little bit more legroom than in the F-150 Lightning, but I'm not complaining in either of them. You also sit really high up in both of these trucks. In this Silverado, I have a commanding view of the road ahead. Blind zones are actually not that bad. The exterior mirrors are nice and big. However, one thing to note on the mirrors is that on the driver's side, it is more of a concave type of mirror, so you can see a little bit more around you. Whereas on the passenger side, it looks like as though it's magnifying the area just behind the truck. So I can't really see what's in my blind zone through the passenger side mirror. But thankfully, the back window on the passenger side is nice and big. And of course, this truck does have blind spot sensors, which work perfectly fine. Also, visibility out the back is pretty okay. The mirror is kind of small, but if you tilt it up, then it becomes a camera. So you have an unobstructed view out the back. As for the design of this interior, visually, I think it looks pretty good. However, it does use gloss black plastic on the center console, so this will attract dust, fingerprints, and scratches. So if you want it to look nice and clean, you better make sure that you keep it nice and clean and you maintain it. But otherwise, it looks okay. However, once you take a closer look at this interior and start to look at the details and start to actually touch some of the materials, that's when you realize that this interior isn't exactly befitting a truck that costs as much as this one. So for example, in front of the passenger, there are two stitch lines, but they look very crooked. And also on the steering wheel, the stitching looks chaotic. It doesn't look uniform. And as I said, once you actually start to touch these materials, they feel a bit rubbery and plasticky. In fact, this whole area that's just by my knee is hard, scratchy plastic. Okay, the leather on the center console and also on the seats is actually pretty nice to the touch, and the seats are decently comfortable. But the rest of this interior, again, it just doesn't feel like it belongs in a truck that costs as much as this Silverado RST does. However, GM has kept some functionality, some easy functionality that is, because you have physical climate knobs for both the driver and the passenger, as well as toggle switches for fan speed, as well as the front and rear defroster. Most of the other functions of this interior are integrated into the large infotainment touchscreen. The system is Google-based, so it incorporates Google Maps, Google Assistant, and the Play Store. And of course, you can log in through your Google account and have all of your settings saved. The system also allows you to customize it just a little bit. You can move around all the different icons and put your favorites up at the very top, right next to the physical volume knob, which is very similar to the one in the F-150 Lightning. So overall, a very spacious interior, and at first glance, it does look good. However, as I said, once you take a closer look at the details and you start to actually feel some of the materials, it's not that great for a truck costing this much. More on that in a bit, but first, let's take a look at the F-150 Lightning. Now in the Ford F-150 Lightning, as I said, very spacious, just like the Silverado EV. Plenty of space for my 6'4" height, both here in the front seats and behind my tall driving position. Visibility equally just as good, and I have a commanding driving position. In fact, it feels like as though I'm sitting just a little bit higher in this F-150 compared to the Silverado EV. And that's because the driver's seat doesn't go down quite as far as the one in the Silverado. But either way, mirrors are nice and big, blind zones are very small, and I can see out the back just fine. Unfortunately, this one doesn't have a rear camera mirror. As for the design of the F-150 Lightning, it is pretty similar to the standard Ford F-150. You get the same steering wheel and you get the same double glove box with a larger lower glove box and a smaller top glove box. But on the center of the dashboard, you get the giant tablet style infotainment touchscreen. The fit and finish of this mid-level flash trim of the F-150 Lightning is a little bit better than the Silverado EV. The stitching is nice and straight, and as I said, the stitching on the steering wheel is much more uniform. It doesn't look so chaotic. Of course, it doesn't have leather seats, it has cloth seats, but in the Lariat that I previously drove, you do get leather, and also in the top spec Platinum trim. Most of the materials are plastic, so just like in the Silverado EV, they don't really feel that great when you actually touch them, but thankfully there is no gloss black plastic on the center console. And also this interior is quite gray, so there's different shades of gray pretty much everywhere that you look, so it's very monotone. And it doesn't really have the same flashiness or wow factor as the interior of the Silverado EV, at least when you first glance at it. But overall, again, spacious, comfortable, good seating position, can't complain. Obviously, the two trims I had the chance to review are not direct competitors. The Ford F-150 Lightning Flash is a mid-grade trim, while the Chevrolet Silverado EV RST is a top-grade trim. Later in 2025, Chevrolet will introduce the LT trim, which is more comparable to the Flash trim. Likewise, the Platinum trim of the Lightning is a closer competitor to this RST trim. Previously, I did have the chance to drive the Lariat trim of the F-150 Lightning, which felt more upscale. Nevertheless, the Ford F-150 Lightning Pro starts at $62,890 Canadian, with this Flash demo vehicle having an as-tested price of just under $90,000 Canadian. The Platinum trim starts at $113,390 Canadian. The Chevrolet Silverado EV work truck starts at about $64,000 Canadian, with this RST First Edition trim costing $117,499 Canadian. Although this F-150 Lightning Flash is not a fully loaded truck, it comes fairly well equipped with heated front seats and a heated steering wheel, dual-zone automatic climate control, a wireless phone charging pad, front and rear parking sensors, surround view cameras, B&O sound system, and the large tablet-style 15.5-inch touchscreen with Sync 4 infotainment. Moving up to the Platinum trim, it will add features such as ventilated front seats, leather upholstery, panoramic sunroof, wood trim accents, and 22-inch wheels. The Silverado EV RST comes equipped with most of the same convenience features and gadgets as the F-150 Lightning Platinum would come equipped with. In addition, both trucks are equipped with hands-free driving systems, Super Cruise in the Chevy and Blue Cruise in the Ford. Both systems allow the use of hands-free driving across most highways in Canada and the United States. I found the Super Cruise system to be a little bit smoother at navigating through sharp highway corners than Blue Cruise. The latter kept moving the steering wheel back and forth a little bit, like as though it was trying to find the edges of the lane. Both can also change lanes with the push of the indicator stalk, and both systems work well at night. In the end, electric pickup trucks do have their place in the world, but I don't see them replacing gasoline-powered trucks anytime soon, especially if you're on a budget and you do a lot of long-distance towing. But these two definitely work as city trucks, and also the Silverado, thanks to that long range, can be a pretty good long-distance family hauler. So of the two, which one is better? Well, that's kind of hard to say because each of them have their own strengths and weaknesses. The Silverado, as I said, has the long range, faster charging, and it's a bit more versatile, whereas the F-150 Lightning is lighter, so it drives a little bit better. The interior is nicer, especially on the higher end trims, and it's less expensive. Personally, I think I would choose the Chevy Silverado because I just think it looks amazing, but probably not this RST trim, probably one of the more mid-level trims. However, I would definitely not be disappointed if I had to choose the Lightning either. Both of them are pretty good electric trucks. So which one would you choose? Comment down below. And in the meantime, if you would like to know more about either of them, I have a more detailed written review of them over on my website. You can find that link in the video description or click on the pop-up banner right up there. And as always, I will see you in the next car, truck, or most likely it'll be an SUV next time. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.